Family's heroic dog, Bella, fights off charging bear to save a 6-year-old boy in shocking Connecticut video. A heart-stopping moment outside a Connecticut home has captured the attention of animal lovers across the country after a brave family dog fearlessly confronted a charging black bear to protect a 6-year-old boy. Now let's go beyond the surface and reveal every layer of this story on our AI
That
podcast.
specific rhythm to a horror movie, right? Like, everything gets quiet, the camera just holds on an open doorway.
And your brain instinctively braces for the jump scare.
Exactly. When the monster finally leaps out, the panic is instantaneous. But, I mean, imagine if, in that exact fraction of a second, a superhero flew into the frame, tackled the monster, and just completely ruined the horror movie.
You're just left with this intense whiplash.
Right. Going from absolute terror to this massive adrenaline rush of triumph before your brain has even processed what just happened. Welcome to your custom-tailored deep dive. Today, we're looking at a viral showdown that is exactly that.
A real-life horror movie jump scare interrupted by a four-legged superhero.
Yeah, but this isn't just like an incredible survival story out of Connecticut. It's actually a warning system. So we're pulling from a heart-pounding local news report, first-hand accounts from the family involved, and official wildlife data from the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection.
Which we'll just call DEEP for short, to save some breath.
Good call. By looking at exactly why a family's pet reacted the way she did, and cross-referencing that with those deep guidelines, we can actually map out the unseen ecological borders shifting in our own backyards.
Right, because the line between the wild and the neighborhood isn't just blurring anymore. Ecologically speaking, it has completely collapsed.
It's gone.
It is. And to really understand the mechanics of that collapse, you have to look at how violently an environment can shift without, any warning at all.
Okay, let's unpack this. We really need to start with the sheer kinetic reality of the inciting incident. So we are looking at July 4th in Torrington, Connecticut.
The absolute definition of peak summer suburbia.
Literally. Jeffrey Tazara is out in his driveway prepping the family vehicle, likely for holiday festivities, and his 6-year-old son, Colton, is just playing nearby. It's this moment of total suburban complacency. You just don't expect a threat here.
No, not at all.
But according to the home security footage, there is zero buildup. I mean, 1 second a child is playing, and the very next second, a large black bear is sprinting directly toward him.
And that word, sprinting, is critical here. This wasn't a bear casually foraging or knocking over a trash can.
Right, it wasn't just wandering.
No, it was moving with explosive speed toward a highly vulnerable target. I mean, a black bear can reach speeds of 35 miles per hour.
35? Wow.
Yeah, so in the confined space of a suburban driveway, that covers the distance to a child in roughly 2 seconds. Human reaction time simply isn't fast enough to process that visual data, formulate a plan, and intercept a threat moving with that kind of mass and velocity.
Which makes what happens next physically staggering. The family has a husky mix named Bella, and our sources note that this bear is estimated to be nearly twice Bella's size.
Easily. I mean, a husky mix might weigh, 50 to 60 pounds?
Something like that.
Whereas a healthy black bear is this heavily muscled wild animal carrying immense weight with claws designed to rip apart rotting logs.
But Bella intercepts this charge like a furry Secret Service agent. She just throws her body into the line of fire, diving right in front of Colton.
By all logical metrics, Bella is entirely outmatched. The amount of kinetic energy that bear carried into the driveway should have overwhelmed a domestic dog instantly.
But she doesn't use mass. She leverages something much more potent, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
She weaponizes surprise and absolute unyielding aggression.
She rushes the bear, barking fiercely. And I really want to look closely at Jeffrey Tazara's quote to ABC News here because it highlights a massive behavioral shift.
Yeah, that quote is fascinating.
Right. He said, it was a vicious bark, not like she normally barks, yips, or howls. This was completely different.
And it works. She startles the bear, chases it across the driveway, and actually bites it right in the rear end.
Literally bites a bear in the butt.
She really does. And the bear panics, crashes into a parked boat on the property, scrambles underneath it, and then flees into the woods. Colton is completely untouched.
It's unbelievable. But I have to push back on the mechanics of this for a second, because I get the concept of pack instinct, sure, but self-preservation is the strongest biological imperative there is.
Oh, absolutely.
So how does the math in a dog's brain override the visual input of an apex predator that is twice its size? Is Bella calculating this risk, or is it just a blind reflex?
What's fascinating here is the neurochemistry of that exact moment. Bella is not performing a conscious risk assessment.
So no math at all.
None. In domestic dogs, thousands of years of breeding have essentially trapped them in a state of prolonged adolescence. It's a concept called neoteny.
Neoteny. Okay, like keeping them puppy-like.
Exactly. It's why they play and why they look to us for guidance.
Well,
But underneath all that domestication lies the original dormant neurological hardware of a wolf.
oh, wow.
Right. So when Bella registers a critical lethal threat to Colton, it acts like a biological circuit breaker.
So it completely bypasses the part of her brain that would normally say, hey, that animal is way too big to fight.
Precisely. The visual input of the charging bear triggers an instantaneous flood of cortisol and adrenaline. It completely bypasses the frontal cortex where logic and risk assessment live.
The circuit breaker flips.
Yes, and it routes all her neurological energy directly into ancient pack defense protocols. That vicious bark Jeffrey described. That wasn't a dog just making noise.
It was like an acoustic weapon.
Yes, it's a deep, primal vocalization meant to signal absolute territorial dominance. Bella isn't deciding to be brave. Her biology is forcing an override to protect the genetic future of her pack, which, in her mind, is Colton.
That biological circuit breaker analogy makes perfect sense. She's not weighing the pros and cons. The threat hits a certain threshold, the circuit trips, and the inner wolf just takes the wheel.
And clearly, the family recognized the magnitude of what she did, because the aftermath is fantastic.
Oh, I love this part. Bella was immediately treated to her very own steak at the next family dinner. She's fully viewed as a guardian now, not just a pet.
Which is a calorically appropriate reward for an animal that just burned through a massive adrenaline spike. Honest.
Right, gotta replenish those calories. But it didn't stop at the dinner table. Here's where it gets really interesting. Bella's bravery actually caught the attention of the local government.
Yeah, this is so unique.
State Representative Joe Canino and State Senator Stephen Harding actually visited the family. They presented Bella with an official legislative citation for extraordinary courage, along with, like, a healthy supply of dog treats.
That is just brilliant.
Senator Harding even wrote a Facebook post saying, "Some heroes wear capes, others have 4 paws. One very good dog." He pointed out that acts of heroism happen in everyday neighborhoods. I mean, giving a legislative citation to a dog is basically like pinning a medal on a soldier.
It really is. It speaks to this very deep human need to ritualize survival.
What do you mean by that?
Well, when our safe, predictable environments are violently breached by the wild, we use human constructs, like a framed legislative citation, to process the trauma. It's our way of celebrating the fact that the established order was restored.
It's our way of coping with the fact that the suburban bubble actually popped. We give the dog a piece of paper to make the chaos feel manageable, even though she really just wanted the treats.
Exactly. It's for us, not for her. But that leads us directly into the reality of the situation. While we celebrate Bella, the terrifying truth is that she never should have had to fight a bear on the 4th of July.
Right. Why is an apex predator sprinting through a driveway in Torrington in the first place?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this specific incident is a symptom of a massive ecological shift.
Okay, looking at the deep data, they note that black bears are the only bear species in Connecticut, right?
Correct. And their population has steadily increased over recent decades. Historically, Connecticut was heavily deforested, which originally drove the bears out. But as those forests have recovered and expanded, the bear population has obviously rebounded.
Which is a good thing for nature, generally.
It is. However, that new forest is heavily fragmented by suburban sprawl.
So we have a situation where the woods and the neighborhoods are just completely braided together. There's no hard border anymore.
Not at all.
And I imagine the caloric math for a bear makes the neighborhood incredibly appealing. Like, if you're a 300-pound animal, foraging for berries in the deep woods takes a massive amount of time and energy.
A staggering amount of energy.
Right, so why burn all those calories when there's a literal buffet of leftover hot dogs, birdseed, and garbage bags sitting right on the edge of the forest?
That caloric math is the driving engine of habituation. Habituation is this neurological process where an animal's natural fear response degrades over time.
Oh, okay, so they just get used to us.
Exactly. Bears are incredibly intelligent and highly adaptable. When they first approach a human habitat, their cortisol levels are high. They're stressed, they're cautious.
They know they aren't supposed to be there.
Right. But when they realize that investigating a plastic bin yields, 5,000 calories with zero resistance, the brain's reward center releases a massive hit of dopamine.
Oh, wow. So it's literally a chemical reward.
Yes. And over time, that dopamine reward completely overrides the natural fear response.
So they stop associating houses with danger and start associating them with easy calories.
Exactly. And once a bear is habituated, encounters like the one in the Tazara driveway shift from being freak accidents to statistical inevitabilities.
That is terrifying.
The bear wasn't there to be malicious. It was sprinting through a residential space because it viewed that space as its own established foraging ground.
Which means nature isn't just something out there that we visit on the weekends. Nature is actively adapting to our garbage schedules.
Beautifully put, yes.
And since we cannot all rely on a fearless husky to act as a biological circuit breaker for our families, we really have to reclaim those environments ourselves. The deep guidelines provided in our sources give us this exact science-backed playbook on how to bear-proof your life.
And it really comes down to manipulating a bear's sensory input.
Specifically, their olfactory system, right? Their sense of smell.
Yes. A black bear's sense of smell is estimated to be 7 times stronger than a bloodhound's.
7 times? That's insane.
It's incredible. They possess this massive olfactory mucosa, meaning they navigate their world almost entirely through scent.
So what does this all mean? Looking at the deep trash tactics, the first rule is timing. You place your garbage out only on the morning of collection, never overnight.
That's step 1.
You use containers with tight lids and you store them in locked garages or sheds. But the chemical tactic they recommend is what really caught my eye. Deep advises adding small amounts of ammonia to your garbage bags or trash cans.
Ammonia is a brilliant deterrent because it exploits the sheer sensitivity of the bear's nose.
Because to us, ammonia just smells like a harsh cleaning product.
Right, but to a bear, it is a physical irritant. When those fumes hit their highly developed nasal receptors, it binds to the moisture in their respiratory tract and creates an acute burning sensation.
Wow. So it doesn't just mask the smell of the leftover pizza, it makes the trash can physically painful to investigate.
Precisely. You are essentially setting up an invisible chemical perimeter. And this applies to your pets and property too. The deep guidelines are strict, never leave pet food outdoors overnight. If you have livestock, their feed needs to be in completely airtight containers.
The compost and grilling guidelines operate on that same principle, and they're usually the biggest blind spots for homeowners. People view compost as just decomposing dirt.
But to a foraging bear, a compost pile is an open-air salad bar.
Exactly. Deep advises absolutely no meat, no fish scraps, and no sweet fruit peels in your compost. And just like the ammonia trick, they recommend sprinkling lime on the compost. The lime chemically neutralizes the odors.
And you have to clean your barbecue grills too. You either meticulously burn off and scrub the grease traps after every single use, or you store them indoors.
Because a grease trap is basically a concentrated beacon of animal fat calling out into the woods.
It really is.
But looking at all these tactics, I have to point out a massive vulnerability here. Our sources mention the community rule, the idea that reducing food sources is only effective if the entire neighborhood does it.
Yes, this is the crux of the issue.
I look at this and realize I can build an absolute fortress right. I can ammonia wash my trash, store it in a bunker, neutralize my compost with lime, and scrub my grill with a toothbrush. But biologically speaking, my fortress is completely useless if the guy next door is casually tossing raw fish scraps onto an open compost pile and leaving dog bowls full of kibble on his porch.
This raises an important question about the reality of modern suburban living. We operate under the illusion of property lines. You think your yard is an isolated kingdom.
Right, my fence protects my yard.
But wildlife operates on continuous ecosystems. A bear does not see a fence. It sees a continuous foraging grid. If your neighbor is broadcasting high-calorie scent signals into the forest, they are drawing the bear into your shared grid.
It essentially makes wildlife management a socio-ecological pact. It's not just an individual chore. It's literally a neighborhood treaty.
That is exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Because habituation is learned, it takes collective discipline to break the cycle.
So if a bear learns that Elm Street yields thousands of calories, it will just keep returning to Elm Street.
Exactly. The entire community has to consistently eliminate those rewards to force the bear to relearn that the neighborhood is a dead zone.
Which pushes them back into their natural deeper wood habitats to survive.
Yes. One broken link in the neighborhood chain compromises everyone's safety.
It really reframes how we view our own backyards. To pull all of this together, we started with the incredible instinct of Bella, right? A husky mix who bypassed her own survival instincts, tapped into ancient pack defense protocols, and fearlessly charged an apex predator to save a 6-year-old boy.
And we saw how her terrifying visceral response earned her a stake, a legislative citation, and the title of local superhero.
But we also zoomed out to the underlying biology and ecology of the event. With black bear populations recovering and expanding into the fragmented edge habitats of Connecticut, habituation is shifting these dangerous encounters from rare anomalies to predictable statistical realities.
And most importantly, we broke down the chemistry and community action required to stop it.
Right. We learned that securing your trash, manipulating odors with ammonia and lime, and locking down your grills aren't just polite suggestions. They are vital, science-backed community pacts necessary to maintain the invisible border between the neighborhood and the wild.
Being well-informed means taking these exact mechanisms and applying them to your own life.
Yep.
You have to act as the steward of your own environment, ensuring you aren't inadvertently training wild animals to view your driveway as a buffet.
Make sure your property isn't broadcasting a welcome signal to a 300-pound wild animal. Because while we all hope our pets would be as incredibly brave as Bella, it is our job to manage the environment so their biological circuit breakers never have to flip in the first place. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with something to ponder on your own. We spent a lot of time today talking about Bella and how a domestic, house-trained dog still harbors this ancient primal map of the pack and the wild, acting on biological imperatives she doesn't even consciously understand.
It's fascinating to think about.
It really is, which
Yeah.
makes you wonder. Actually, it makes you realize if our dogs are reacting to an ancient, invisible map of the natural world, how completely blind are we to the actual ecological map of our own neighborhoods that wild animals are drawing over our property lines every single night.
It changes the way you look at an open driveway.
It really does. So the next time you find yourself looking out at the quiet suburban dark, remember that the boundary between your home and the wild is only as strong as the habits you keep. Thanks for diving deep with us. Keep your trash locked up, give your pets an extra treat tonight, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Okay, one question for you. Do you believe Bella acted purely on instinct, or do you think dogs develop such deep emotional bonds with their families that they are willing to risk their own lives to protect the people they love? Share your thoughts and experience. Thanks.